This episode, it's the holiday season show. Well, folks, once again, it's that time of year again. It's time for gift giving in the holiday season. So, Johnny and I are once again going to have a discussion on the tools that you must have, must need, all that good kind of groovy stuff. And we're going to give you our suggestions on what we think that might be great gifts for people out there
Is
in the world.
is this take two?
Welcome to the Handyman Pros Radio Show, home improvement and maintenance tips from the pros. This is take two.
A little technical difficulty, folks, but
We had a little technical difficulty. We do want to thank you for listening to another edition of the Handyman Pros Radio Show, where our goal is to help save you time, money, and aggravation on your home maintenance and repair. This edition's entitled the Christmas Tool Show, or it's the Holiday Tool Show, as it should say. And Johnny has already piped in. He is alive and bearing. We did this show once already this morning, and we are doing it once again.
But now I know.
Thanks.
Now I know what I'm going to say.
Now, we've already been through it. We've done a practice run, folks.
That's right.
And I hate to say the first one was probably going to be better than this. No, I'm just kidding. We have no idea. We have no idea because we do not have a script on this thing. We just have bullet points. So when we do these shows, I never know what Johnny's actually going to say. That's the key.
That's that's the key. I don't know where that's going to take you, but what we had talked about here was to give some folks out there ideas of what to buy, or get their loved ones or whatever for Christmas, or maybe yourself.
Hey,
you love with
if
yourself.
you're in my house, guess what?
So,
Yeah.
but it was one of those things where we were talking the other day about the things the kind of tools that we use constantly. And you mentioned that the kind of tools that sometimes you don't even put them away. They're always being used. You probably got them right next to you. They're in your tool belt. And these are power tools, that we're talking about. And what was the first one, Larry?
The first one is always the cordless drill. Always. It's always. I use my cordless drill on every single job. I can't think of a job I haven't used it on. Even in a fully electrical job, I still use it because I take the screws out of the frickin' outlets with it.
Yeah.
It's just a huge time saver, and it's just easy to use. And so and it was the other thing, Johnny, when we were talking about this, one of our parameters was that would you be upset if you got two of them? And we decided on the cordless drill, nope. No, I've got two. I've got two, three. I've got like three of them. Right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things where it's such an essential tool that especially in our capacity where we've got all the tools and everything either in our trucks or whatever, but I still have a shop and I'm always looking for the tool. So up the stairs I go to the out of the basement out to my car. I just
Johnny, I thought you went up the chimney.
Sorry. Yeah, right. Yeah. I wish I could fit down a chimney. That was a long time ago. Along those lines, you always they're always catching some guy. Just Google it, right? Guy gets caught in the chimneys, trying to rob the house or something.
Yeah, right.
But anyways, so it's up the stairs, out to the truck. Get the cordless drill, and I was just fixing my vacuum the other day, and I needed that thing, because I didn't want to take out all the screws by hand.
Right.
And I wound up taking
100%.
them out by hand. And I said, you know what? This is nuts. So I just went there, traipsing up the stairs, and then I had to find something else up the stairs again, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But it was, to your point, to have another drill like that, and they're really not all that expensive.
No, not terrible.
At this point. And I'll tell you, cordless drills, if you don't have one, you gotta have one. Okay, you gotta have one. I mean, I can't even remember. When I had corded drills, I don't think I ever used them as screwdrivers.
No, we use them for drilling.
Only.
Yeah.
And with the advent of cordless drills, they became so versatile that that it was they had all these little attachments or little things that any kind of screws, tips, it's like, man, how did I live without this thing?
Oh, it's crazy. Well, and the other side of it is like when you're building something, the ability to put a screw in and be able to take it apart if you make a little mistake, or the flip side is understanding that a screw is so much superior to a nail as far as holding power that it's a combination benefit, right? So
I don't, we never screwed anything together back then.
no, because it took forever.
Yeah, I know.
Oh
It
my
took forever.
God.
You couldn't get through anything,
Yeah, of
So,
course.
so anyways, yeah, that's a must have. So if you're thinking about something for Christmas, man, if you don't have that, boy, that's got to be number one on your list if you're looking for a new
Yeah.
tool.
Number one.
Yep.
Number one on the old list. Second thing we decided was a circular saw. If you're going to work with wood at all, well, wood, or you can put different blades on it. You can cut metal, you can cut concrete, and you can cut a bunch of different things. But you got to have, circular saw is pretty good. And corded or cordless, just kind of depends on your particular frame. I personally, we've gone all cordless for the most part because the batteries are interchangeable between the drills and all the other tools that I have. So I bought a cordless circular saw, which I really like because, of course, it makes it so much easier. You just grab it, slap a battery in it, rock and roll, and you're cutting, and but we gotta have some kind of a circular saw.
And I'll make the distinction here too, Larry, is that if you're a real carpenter and you're working all the time, you're gonna have a corded, probably circular saw.
Yes.
A worm drive. The sky's the limit on these things, but for most of us that are just doing this stuff, as handymen and doing, occasionally cutting and things like that, even if you're not
home
occasionally
projects,
a lot,
stuff
but
like
yeah, a circular saw, a cordless circular saw. I'm using that thing constantly.
Yeah, constantly. It was one of our parameters when we were deciding on these things. Like for me, this was one, and John alluded to it, but I don't, it's one that I hardly ever put it away because where I put my tools is it's in a box, and it takes a little bit to get into that box because it's got a box stacked on top of it. Not that you need to know that, but anyway, it takes me a little longer to get it away. So most of the time, one of my parameters on picking these tools was what gets left out, because it gets used so much. And my circular saw is one of the ones that gets left out almost all the time because I use it really a lot, for various different things. So anyway, the other one was an oscillating saw. My oscillating saw never goes in the box. So an oscillating saw, or multi-tool as it's called, is another one. I use a cordless one. Way prefer the cordless to the corded.
Oh, and these things, yeah.
Unbelievable. It has really got to have one. When you consider the functions of it, folks, if you're not familiar with what one is, it has saw blades, it has grout removal tools, it has grinders, it has sanding tools, is there anything else? Caulk removal tools. What else do I have?
Oh man, it's got scrapers, it's got everything.
Scrapers, yeah,
and
it's crazy.
If you're ever putting flooring down and you have to undercut, the casings and things like that, you can just cut it instead of pulling out like a Japan saw or whatever, cutting it, by hand. Forget it. These things, man, it makes quick work of everything and precision too.
And precision work as well.
Yeah.
Really, really, really outstanding tools. We've done whole shows on some of the different blades and things. We did a whole series on actually some of the blades that are available out there. So just understand they're so versatile. Again, one of our other parameters is how much usage can you actually do with a tool to get the maximum use out of it, right? So, I mean, it's like, this is one where you can do a whole series of different jobs, right? Anything from cutting metal to taking grout to cutting tile to sanding there's just so much you can do with it. It's a gotta have.
Yeah.
And once you have one, you'll never be without one.
Yeah.
It's really that simple. Once you find out how much you use it, you'll never be without one. So what's the next one, Johnny?
Electrical tester.
Yeah, we like to,
Yeah.
We like to stay alive.
Yeah. I'd highly recommend this.
It was kind of one of those other things where we're like, I was thinking about my tool belt, and I'm like, what's in my tool belt? And I'm like, well, I have 3 electrical testers in my tool belt. So when I say you can have more than one, you can have more than one. I personally have a non-contact one. I have a multimeter, which is a form of electrical tester. And then I have one that'll actually run down a circuit and also plugs into the wall to tell if something's live and if a ground fault is actually working properly. And so you know, an electrical tester, personally, at least a non-contact electrical tester, so that you can tell if something is live, so you don't go and
Yep.
electrocute yourself.
Yep.
You know.
I mean, anytime. And folks, they're probably only like 15 or $20.
Yeah,
These
they're
little
not much.
non-contact ones.
Yeah.
And,
It's about the size of a pen, you know, and they fit in your pocket. Zip.
yeah. And anytime you're around electricity, just a sanity check, that even if you turn the circuit off,
I always check it.
always check it. It's just a good sanity check, putting in anything, it's a great little tool to have, great little thing to have with you all the time, if you're doing electrical work. So,
also good if you're cutting through drywall.
And cutting through drywall. Yeah.
To check and see if there's anything hot behind it. Anyway.
Well, yeah, that brings up, yeah.
It's a different
Well, there's a reason why there's only 1.25 inch drywall screws.
That's correct. Yes, it is.
So,
that is the correct.
But yeah, you gotta be careful with going in there. Now, so that brings up another subject, and I have used this a couple of times, and I bought a stud finder that that'll find the studs, but it also finds electricity,
live electricity. Yep.
In the wall, and you can follow it. It's kind of interesting because you can follow the beacon of this thing all the way up the wall where the electrical wires are running.
Right.
And you brought up a good point right there. So before you go cutting deep into a wall, you never want to do that.
Well, you can, but be aware that there are things that can happen between plumbing and electrical.
When you're taking off wallboard, don't go deep.
Yeah,
wallboard's only 5/8 at max. Just to be, you gotta be careful, because I've seen this happen before, and it's not a good sight.
It gets kind of ugly.
Yeah.
So back to our gift giving list here. So one of the other things that I think is absolutely a must is you got to have some kind of a shop vac. A good shop, a decent shop vac with a big hose on it to pick up.
Yep.
Junk. Just, I don't know what else to call it. Not really dirt, but junk. You want to picks up dirt as well.
And water.
And water. Yeah. Oh yeah. Water.
So,
yeah,
I was telling you a story that, I'm working at a friend's at a house here, and, they're cleaning up and pulling out, their regular vacuum cleaner. I'm like, no, don't do that. I've got a shop vac. It's not that won't work, but don't destroy it, because it's, there's too many filters and everything in those things, and just, they're expensive,
Well, they're expensive. The passageways are small.
Pathways are small, that whole thing. You don't want to ruin a $250, carpet vac, get a shop vac, and, they're meant for two different things.
Very much so.
But yeah, you gotta have one. You gotta have one. And I bought a little one, that's easily portable. It doesn't have a great big bucket on it, but it's got a very powerful motor on it. It's a 5 horsepower motor, and it's that thing is fantastic. I use it all the time. A lot more than I used to use my other vac. My other vac was bigger. Yeah.
Yeah, getting the big ones out when you're doing it, folks. We work as handymen, so we do a lot of mobile work, and it's kind of. I have a big 5-gallon one. Probably 5 gallons. It's kind of tough to get out, but I still break it out all the time. So, it's nice if you can get the smaller size. It's just I'm too cheap to buy a new one, because I've had this. Had this thing since a long time, and I keep waiting for it to die. When it finally dies, if it finally ever dies, I'm probably going to buy a small one. But
here's what I found about. Here's what I found about the shop vacs. If you use it a lot in a wet situation to suck water, then get a bigger one, because you'll be emptying out little ones a lot.
Oh yeah.
But if you don't do that and you do it occasionally, I would get a smaller one, because they're just as powerful, but they just don't have the capacity. And I've never filled this thing up yet in one afternoon.
I only filled mine up. You know what? I filled mine up one time, and I was sucking up the styrofoam, what do they call it? The packaging material, because I one of the boxes broke.
Oh,
and
there
dumped
you
it out
go.
all over.
Yeah.
It dumped out all over the floor.
All those
right?
peanuts and stuff.
All the peanuts. Yeah, I was like, what the, like I was not a happy camper. Anyway, get the vacuum. Filled it up with that, but that's a high volume.
Yeah.
That's the only time I've ever filled one up, other than water. You're right, John. You're right about water. I have filled them up with water.
I have too. I pulled 50 gallons out of my neighbor's basement one time.
Yeah, we had a little water intrusion problem here at the house, and we probably pulled out 25, 30 gallons out of the carpet. And folks, that's another thing. I guess I really didn't think about it, but one of the great things about a wet dry shop vac is if you do have an emergency situation and you need to get the water out, you can do it. You just suck the water right. It picks the water right up. They all have float valves that shut the thing off from sucking the water up into the electric part of the motor. So they're really, really good for that kind of thing. And other applications where, like, I'm trying to think what other applications where you do water, but if you have a boat, really, if you have a boat, it's great because you can stick it down in the sump, do it, multi-purpose. Anyway,
you know what I use with my vac all the time, and folks, you can buy these separately. And I had one left over from a vacuum, was one of those turbo power heads.
Yes. Yep. Sure enough.
And man, I tell you what, you put that thing on a 5 horsepower shop vac, holy smokes. That little brush is flying.
Unravel your carpet before
it is
you
flying,
know.
and it is fantastic to clean out your car with, I'll tell you that much. It's great to detail out cars. So
So lots of uses with that. Lots and lots and lots of uses with a good shop vac, and so that's why we think it's one. And shop vacs in general today are not terribly expensive. They're $100 or so, maybe a little more than that for a super one with a lot of function on it. But you're not going to spend. We're not talking. And mine, seriously, they last a really long time, provided you change the filters every once in a while. I mean, mine's. I don't even know how old mine is, John. It's got to be almost 20 years old. I think. Didn't you have one from the 70s?
Yeah, that thing was
Seriously.
so loud. Yeah, that was the little old Craftsman I bought at a Sears store. I think when in the 70s, I want to say.
Yeah.
I mean, I had that thing. I use that thing, and it just still works. But it's not comparable. What the silence, and on my shop vac, I bought like a muffler for it.
A muffler for it, yeah.
Yeah, and it's great. If you don't have one, you got to have a shop vac.
Yeah,
I mean,
got to have a shop vac.
Yeah, got to have
anyway.
a shop vac.
All right, so the next thing that we came up with was like we called this the combo package. We decided we needed to talk about some consumables, meaning the things that you are going to use up that nobody's ever going to really like. Nobody would say, oh, I don't think, thanks. We talked about this as like one, and one of them was carpenter's pencils and markers. And then we also talked about the various different kinds of tapes, blue tape and duct tape and what is it? Electrical tape.
Electrical tape.
So, and Teflon
tape. It is those kind of things, Larry. You bring it up, the consumables, right? It's the kind of things that are always, you always need them, and it's like you never have them around.
Right.
I don't know what it is, especially with electrical tape.
Tape.
I'm kind of more organized now, but I used to have, I told you before, like my dad, he used to have 500 rolls of that stuff I bought over my lifetime, and I could never find one. And it's like, it's the same thing. I can never find a piece of electrical tape. And I just had, it's like every time I go into the store, I say to myself, you know what? In my basement, I never have that stuff, and I never buy it again. It's like, so I have it in my car, of course, in my truck, but I don't have it in my basement. And I'm like, what? Why don't I have another?
Why don't you just buy some for the basement?
I know, exactly. And
I
just did it the other day. Up the stairs I went, out to the truck again. It's like. It's not the exercise that that gets me. It's just that breaking my tempo.
Johnny, have you seen yourself? It's the exercise. Come on. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so we decided. We said don't just give somebody a carpenter's pencil. That might be kind of rude. Hey, thanks for my 19-cent present.
Right.
Really
that says Big Orange on it.
But you could you could put a whole package together of, some of these various different things, because
That's a great
nobody's
idea.
ever going to, here's a carpenter's pencil and a Sharpie and a couple of rolls, a roll of blue tape and a roll of duct tape and a roll of, those are, I know I would appreciate that, because to me that means somebody's thinking about me.
Yeah.
And they understand that I'm going to use that stuff all the time.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, I really like it. We always discuss blue tape, because John and I use blue tape for everything, else besides what it's intended for, which is painting. And we don't really use it much for painting, hardly at all, because we know how to cut stuff in. But we do use it for, notes for ourselves and marking wires and marking boxes and, you name it. I write on it and use it as a writing tool more than anything else, other than when I want to just tape something together temporarily because it's designed to be taken off. So that I love it. We did a whole show on the 101 uses of blue tape. So, that's always never, we really laugh about it, because it's like, have you ever used tape to cut anything in? He's like, nah.
Not unless you're spraying to tape stuff off, but it's kind of, I just don't, but I think that was I think that's a great idea. And then, think about some other things, but I think to put it in a little package like that, consumables. So if you have somebody that, that does this kind of work or works around the house a lot,
even around the house,
it's a great,
never going wrong with this one.
Nope. Can't go wrong with that one.
Johnny, it does remind me of one thing. The Handyman Pros Radio Show coffee mug, available at handymanprosradioshow.com. It's a 15.5-ounce cup. It's wonderful ceramic, says Handyman Pros on both sides. We love it.
Right. And it's even got a handle on it.
It's even got a handle on it. Holds coffee. Yeah. There's a lot of coffee. Anyway, there's me. There's a little shameless plug.
So that's a good feature of that cup. It's got a handle.
So one of the other things we were talking about was tape measure or some kind of measuring device, but a good tape measure is always welcome. And it's almost like one of those things. It's the same thing. You're like, somebody gives you an additional tape measure, you're going to be like, I'm not turning this one down. Like, no, thanks. Good. That I prefer a 25-footer. I prefer it in some kind of high visibility color, either orange or green or something I'm going to see, because when I drop it off my tool belt, when I'm up on a ladder and it lands in the bush, I'd like to be able to find the stupid thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've got the ones that have the fractions on it, so it makes it easy. I gravitate to those, like the Milwaukee ones and stuff like that. And,
Yep.
But
believe it or not, there's a lot of options on a tape measure, and you kind of have to understand like there's a lot of different options on tape measures. And I'm not being a proponent of one versus the other, but there's some really interesting things. Some have metal or have magnetic hooks. The hook of the tape measure is magnetic, so you can stick it to metal and pull the tape out. That's just one option. Some have different marks on them as far as how they're actually demarcated. John was talking about he likes the ones with the fractions on them, but some of them are done. Some are in metric, some are in standard measure, some are in carpenter's lingo, some are in framing lingo. It just sort of depends on what your particulars are of what you're using it for. But a good tape measure is something that nobody's ever going to be, oh well, thanks for nothing. Like, I mean, it's always a welcome gift. It's always a welcome gift.
Great.
By the way, folks, if you're listening and you know me, I need a new tape measure. So there you go.
Yeah, you do. Yeah,
I actually do. Yeah, it's
they'll break after a while. They'll kink and all that kind of stuff. But
they get kinks, and this particular one is actually cutting into the sides of the housing, and so it sticks. And I'm like,
that's a problem. So there are things to know about tape measures. The better ones have what's known as more of a standout, which means you can pull them out longer before they fall onto themselves.
Yep.
So, anyways.
Anyway,
that's we
should do a show on that.
Yeah, on a tape measure.
We probably should. We should do a show on tape measure and all the various different options. There's a lot, folks. There's a lot of options. Wow, it's like amazing. Anyway, I digress. One of the other things. So this was another thing that we had on the list, and this is it's two items. You can kind of use one for one and one and the other, but not really. But that's either vice grips or locking pliers, if you want to call them that, and or an adjustable wrench. For the average person, an adjustable wrench is a good thing. You don't need mechanics wrenches. You don't necessarily need all the various different sizes and all that kind of thing. You can get by for most things around the home with a good adjustable wrench. And a pair of vice grips is really good for so many different applications that I've got like 5 or 6 pairs of vice grips just all over the place. Not going to go wrong. Vice or locking pliers, as they're called. They're technically locking pliers. Vice grip's the brand name, but it is what it is. So,
when those
John,
things first came, those
stuff?
things came out. I don't know when those things came out, but I remember a story that my dad. I think we brought a car. This must have been in the '60s, and we brought a car in to get serviced. I think it was for its first service or something like that. It was a new car, and underneath the car, the muffler was being held on with a pair of vice grips.
I've seen that done. I've seen,
but
lots
it came that way.
Yeah.
Somebody,
Somebody made a boo-boo.
Yeah.
But that's beside the point.
But they come in all kinds of sizes too. I have a bunch of. I think I've got 3 of them that are like the long alligator looking.
Yes.
Those things.
There's different sizes.
Yeah,
and
there's
shapes
different
of them
sizes.
and so
They're
forth and so on.
fantastic.
Yeah, it's really a you gotta have at least one pair.
Actually, it's like a third hand.
It is. Well, it is. That's the whole point.
I mean,
you
that's
lock that thing on there, and you don't worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
And so they're really and nobody, trust me, nobody's going to sit there and say, you got me a pair of, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
And the other side is they're really like easily returned / sold also. Like, who's going to say no? It just is what it is. Last but not least, Johnny, we came up with what I use mine a lot, and this is a power tool. This is my 4-inch grinder, right?
Yeah.
So it's a 4-inch disc, and I really use the thing a lot because I use it for so many different multiple jobs. I've got a grinding wheel. I've got for like sharpening and for just grinding things down smooth. I've got a cut-off wheel, so if I'm cutting off nails or just cutting anything metal, if I need to cut like pieces of flashing.
Yeah.
I've also got a masonry bit for it, so if I want to cut concrete or cut tile or cut brick or whatever, I can cut that with it.
Yeah.
I've got the sanding discs for them, and I use that for when I'm taking off like a lot of material, like I want to sand. This isn't fine sanding, but this is just like when you've got a lot of material,
you got to do some
removal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you paint or rust or whatever, great for that. I've got a wire brush, which I use mostly for paint and for rust removal also. It'll take paint off without damaging the wood behind it unless it's rotten, and then you'll know rapidly. By the way, it's just a different repair. But anyway, use it for that. What else do I use it for? I think that's it. I don't remember if I've got any other.
Yeah, no, I use mine all the time.
Yeah,
and
again, yeah. Do you have a cordless one? Do you have a corded one too?
All the stuff is cordless.
Yeah, so you can get cordless ones, or you can get a good, corded one. Is they're not very much money. They're $25 or less for a corded one. So good, really good thing to have. I mean, really, really useful in more ways than I think most people really understand. It's all about what you're buying for the discs.
And just know, folks, that there's different levels of tools. The same tool, on quality. So you kind of look at that and then gauge how much does somebody really use it, or how much do you use it, versus if you're a professional carpenter that you're on the job every single day, you're going to use a corded circular saw, or something like that. So
So yeah. And we're talking about kind of generally, handymen that use their tools. We use, besides my corded drill, I don't think I use everything every day.
Yeah,
but
that's a distinction there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't use in this is what I do full time, but I still don't I don't use my circular saw necessarily every day because I'm not always working on wood.
If you were a professional carpenter every day, all day.
Right.
We're not. We're not.
That's
we're
not
not. That's not what we do.
Yeah.
So
when we talk about that stuff. Anyway, John, anything else? Is there anything else at all?
Well, I brought up, the RotoZip tool that I've used a lot now, and I don't, I didn't think I was going to use it as much as I did, and that's just, it's cordless. You can buy it. You were mentioning, it's like a Dremel tool, right?
Yeah. Yep.
But I use it to cut open walls, and it's just it's very fast. It's very clean. You can cut right down the middle of studs. All kinds of good stuff to do. But it makes short work of fixing wallboard.
Yeah.
And a very professional outcome with it. So yeah.
You know, Johnny, the last time the aliens abducted me, they wrote a, never mind.
They got a roto zipped you.
They wrote. We're not right.
Yeah,
Do you realize we're not right? We are not right.
You're not anymore. Not after getting roto zipped.
And with that, folks.
And with that, all right, Larry.
The Handyman Pros Radio Show, right?
That's it. Take us
if
out.
you want to contact us, if you think this insanity is as insane as we think it is, because it is pretty much kind of a bit of insanity, tell your friends and neighbors. Send them the links to these shows. We'd really appreciate it. We're trying to grow our audience as we always are. If you need to contact us, questions at Handyman Pros Radio Show or Handyman Pros Radio Show at gmail.com. We'll get a hold of us. We do respond to our emails as well. We might even put you on the show. You never know. We had a great conversation with one of our listeners the other day who was actually asking some questions about being a handyman. So we spent a pretty good amount of time with him, got some really good responses from him. But anyway, be that as may, we appreciate you listening. We will see you next week on the Handyman Pros Radio Show.